I was attempting to do there was get some cool shots of my car with the weather in the background and doing the load into this video. And all I was doing there was getting a bunch of shots of a lot of wind noise. So I just gave you some shots of the car with the weather in the background. What we're doing on this video is we're going to take you to the body shop. You guys know the car's painted, obviously. It was quite an adventure and it took a while, but I think they did a very, very good job. I've condensed all of my videos and all of my shots into one video. I think it's about an hour. I've had a number of viewers ask me about compressing things like the build video I did last month and then this one for all the paint so they can just kind of reference through it. So if you want to look at the paint job, take a look. So the Cobra is loaded in the trailer. Thanks, Mark, for hauling us down there. We're going to travel to about in the middle of the state of Utah to Manti, Utah. That's where we're going to find the original garage where this group of guys is going to paint my Cobra, and they can't look original. Okay, we've got it out of the trailer. We're going into the body shop. Can't wait to see it finished. Hey there. Thanks for coming by and checking out Pete Snakebite Kid again. When I first started this YouTube channel, I told you that I was going to cover the build of my Cobra from beginning to end, and I was going to tell you the good, bad, and the ugly. Well, it's done, except for paint. It's at the paint shop. But as far as what I'm doing is done, and we're going to talk about Hurricane Motorsports Cobra. What do I really think? Hey, before I go on and talk about what I really like and some things I maybe didn't super like about this Hurricane kit, I want to talk about doing this thing. And I built this thing all by myself, but I really didn't. I had a bunch of help. First off, my wife and my son and my neighbor Cody were here to unload the car when I was in another state working. I couldn't be here, right? That was a big deal. A bunch of different neighbors have helped me lift the body on and off a couple times. You can't do that by yourself, for obvious reasons. But everything else I've selected and put together and built and assembled by myself. The only thing I have not literally picked up is the frame and the engine block, right? And a lot of the stuff I've done 2 and 3 times I've talked about. But I want to be very clear. I couldn't have done this without the people I've learned stuff from over the years. Well, we've all heard the expression, surround yourself with good people. I've been able to do that a lot. The reason we want to do that is because I believe we become a collection of everybody that we've worked with. I've got to work with some really sharp people. Here's the list. Okay, if I miss you on this list, you know who you are. But you guys in different ways have all been a huge help to me. My friend Rick, we've been friends since high school. His son Dustin has turned out to be quite a hot rodder and tuner also. My friend Harlan, we did a lot of racing and street racing together and helping each other building our cars. My friend Mark had a Cobra Jet car. The very first muscle car shootout, Carcraft magazine, Hot Rod magazine, one of those? Yeah, Mark won it with his Cobra Jet Mustang. My friend Kevin, swap ideas and he helps you with ideas all of the time. He owns Heat Tech in California. They've done a lot of fabrication for me. I've appreciated that. Okay, next on the list, Rusty. We go way back. He's a great fabricator. In fact, he's building a Dart. I think it's a 70 Dart frame-up car. And hopefully we'll get an article on that one. Really cool build on that. I mentioned before the late great Jay Steele of Taylor Engines in Whittier. I learned so much from him. Chris Kaufman, hardcore Ford racer, worked for him for a bit at Advanced Engineering and Kaufman Products. Taught me so much about racing. My friend Mike, he runs a circuit track car. His son Aiden ran a quarter midget and now runs a lightning sprint. What does turning left have to do with building a Cobra? Well, he understands alignment on a race car better than most people I've ever talked to. When it came to scaling the car, he was such a resource on that. So you guys, thank you. Okay, so I've got some categories here, 9 or 10 of them. We're gonna go through these. Hopefully it'll make sense to you. These were kind of my key points as I went through this, so let's break down each one and see what we come up with. All right, value is on the top of my list. It's close to the top of your list. If it's not on the top, we're all working stiffs, right? So the question, the value of my dollar spent for Hurricane Motorsports Cobra received was that good. I'm giving that 2 big thumbs up, I'll be very honest. So I did a lot of research on which kit I want to get, how much each kit costs with different options. It's close to impossible to compare Factory 5 with what I wanted, to a Hurricane with what I wanted, to an ERA with what I wanted. For instance, there are some similarities and some differences, but you know, the Factory 5 car comes without a differential. The Hurricane comes with a differential. You can get a Hurricane with a 9-inch or an IRS. You can add on to a Factory 5 an 8.8 or an IRS, where an ERA has a JAG IRS. Well, how do you really quantify those at the end of the day? And that is just scratching the surface. But for what I spent on it, for what I wanted to do, you know, being very accurate, being a well-made kit, and so on, I think the value, they knocked it out of the park. Thank you, guys. Delivered as promised. So that is, in my mind, what came off that truck and got delivered here. Could I build the Cobra out of that they said I could? Yes, again, I'm going to say they nailed it. I don't feel like anything was misrepresented intentionally or unintentionally. I can build the car that I wanted to build. I can build the car that they said I could build. It's going to look like exactly what I dreamed it would look like and what they represented their kit to do. Speed of delivery. Okay, big disclaimer. I ordered my kit in September of 2020. We didn't even know how crazy the COVID mess was going to be at that point, and how huge and just terrible the supply chain interruptions were going to be. So, yes, was I frustrated with the speed of delivery? Yes. Was that Hurricane's fault? Almost, we're going to say 90% no. I think there's some things they could have done better towards delivered when promised, and just tightening some things up in their end and so on. But not a big deal. Most of that was the COVID thing. Right. You've got a few more categories to go over here. Fit and finish, fit as delivered, overall customer experience, and accuracy. All right. These two are probably confusing. I want you to hear me out on. Okay, let's talk about these two similar but different categories. Fit and finish and fit as delivered. Fit and finish, the way the frame was built, the way the suspension components were built, and so on. Those were very well made. I really like how the frame looked, the powder coating that they got done on it, and so on. Fit as delivered, slightly different category. In other words, when they got the frame powder coated and they had a component that would slide into something before it was powder coated, did they put any time and energy into thinking, will this fit with the thickness of the powder coating in there? The answer is no. And that may seem like a very small thing. Powder coating is very tough. It's hard plastic, you know, melted onto the frame. And, you know, a lot of times they had to grind that stuff out. Seems like a small deal, but beyond that, I'm not being mean to these guys. I'm telling you the truth. There are fewer things that fit on this car than there were things that I had to modify, twist, bang, scrape, make apart, and so on, than there were that literally just bolted on. For instance, putting the lower control arms on, there's a bolt and a spacer and the control arm and a spacer and so on. I had to use the washers that they sent me in the spacers and cut them and grind them to size and mix and match and stack stuff in there. It's not pretty. It works perfectly fine, but it would have been really nice if those were actually cut to size so I could install what they delivered. A little bit of miss on that. Didn't make me crazy. It was frustrating though. Overall customer experience, in my experience, was very good. Most of my exchanges there were with Alex, and he was a general manager there. He has now moved on since some changes have happened at Hurricane. We'll talk about those in a minute. But I had very constant access to him to help me through all the little kinks and twists and so on. Alec, I could not have got this car done without you. Thank you very much. Accuracy. You know, I want this thing to look not like a Cobra replica. I want it to look like a Cobra. Will you be able to look at this and say, it's not a real Cobra? Well, yeah, most likely. You guys know another thing that was really important to me was floor-mounted pedals. The Shelby Cobra had floor-mounted pedals. The Fox Body has dash-mounted pedals. Most Cobra replicas have dash-mounted pedals. You would think it wouldn't be a big deal. It's a big deal to me. That was a big attraction to me, that they've got floor-mounted pedals, right? They've got a brace that goes from the transmission tunnel to the dashboard, right? And you know, that's the way the cars came. The dashboard layout is the correct dashboard layout for a Shelby Cobra 427 SC. That's what I'm building, not a street version of that, which has a slightly different dashboard layout, you know, and some things like that. I went to the extra expense of buying Smith gauges with the Lucas ammeter because that's the way they came. I've got real knockoffs on the car because that's the way they came. And some of that was my doing, but Hurricane had all that stuff available as options where you could make it look, I think, really close to the real deal. So accuracy, another big home run. I'll be very honest, the build manual was not good. This, what I own, is actually a Generation 2 Hurricane car. There was a company that owned everything and it went out of business or whatever, was sold, and this is a Generation 2. Most of the manual is for Gen 1 car, and the parts that are for Gen 2 and are for Gen 1 are not clearly identified. And I'll be very honest, it's a mess. And again, thank you to Alex, because he filled in the holes between, honestly, a very poor manual and me being able to get the car done. If you are building a Hurricane Cobra and you need help with it, honestly, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be glad to help with what I can help you figure out. So there you have it. But I want to give it an overall grade of an A, B, or C, and I'm going to go with an A minus. I mean, when you have the cool factor, when I'm driving this thing down the road, and I've only driven it in gel coat, it's going to be even better when it's bright red. But when I drive this thing down the road, the sensation of I put this thing together, like if other cars I've had are there, it's, you know, it's off the chart. I mean, it's honestly, it's the coolest driving experience I have ever had in my entire life. And if you've got a Cobra, you know the feeling. So Hurricane, I'm not beating you up, I'm telling the truth. And I absolutely love this thing. I cannot wait to have it done, and where my biggest project is going to be wet. My car is at the original garage in Manti, Utah. I'm going to give you a little bit of a progress report on it. As you can see, getting to see a car while body work is being done is kind of like having a bad hair day with bad lighting all at the same time. It's not real glamorous, but I tell you what, I got an up close look at this thing and it's going to look nice. As I walked around the car with them, it was really cool to have them show me what they've done, but looking at some details that I wouldn't have understand. I've never been a body guy, but I have seen a lot of nice cars. I've had some nice looking cars. I know what I want it to look like, but they know how to get it there. And seeing the behind the scenes stuff that they're thinking through, it's really exciting to see this thing and get an idea of how nice it's going to look. I can't wait. Something that they're doing there is they're sending me pictures of the progress, and that's what you're seeing here. I roughly have these stills in there in the order that they sent them to me over the weeks that they've had the car. And then I was able to get down there, and the walk around video I've got is the one where it actually was down at the shop. So that's the latest chunk of progress on. I've talked about this a few times on Pete's Snakebite Kit, but the paint job does represent your project. And that's what people see. And you know how good the car is underneath, or how fast it is, or how balanced it is, or how well it handles. When people walk up to the show or down the street or Cars and Coffee, they look at the paint and they go, huh, nice car. And it's what I like. I love a nice paint job. So I'm stepping up here. I really think I chose the right place at the original garage, and I just cannot wait to see this thing done. It's going to cost me some coin, but I think it's going to be money well spent. And when it's done, you guys are going to see it. All right, thanks for coming by and checking out Pete's Snakebite Kit. As you may or may not know, my Cobra is done, built, ready to go. It's just at the paint shop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to build a Cobra in 5 minutes. Let's take a look. We're going to start with the engine, go through all the parts, get this thing together and running.
Okay, so it's a 351 Windsor. Got a scat stroker crank, 6.2 scat rods. We got nice ARP studs, a stud girdle, all the stuff to make that 2-bolt Windsor block nice and strong. A set of aluminum heads from AFR that have been CNC ported, intake and exhaust and chambers. And then let's match that up to a Victor Jr. intake manifold. Looks to be a pretty good match from the intake manifold to the intake ports. Okay, now we've got it bolted all together. Just needs an oil pan on it. Let's get the oil pan on, put it right side up, get the Holley sniper on it, get the pulleys and whatnot on it. It looks like it's almost ready to go in. On the back, we've got to have a flywheel. It's a billet steel flywheel from Ford Racing. Nice McLeod clutch setup and a QuickTime bell housing to keep everything inside. Then we've got to have a transmission. How about a Tremec 5-speed TKO? I ordered my Cobra from Hurricane right in the middle of COVID, and it was tough. There were so many things on back order. I finally got the car after some delays. But even after I had the car, I didn't have so many other components that we were waiting for. One of the big ones that was holding me up was brakes. If you can't put the brakes on, you can't put the corners on. If you can't put the corners on, you can't put the car on the ground. Finally, one day, there were some boxes from Wellwood sitting on my porch, and I was pretty happy about that. So I went ahead and got the brakes put on all the way around, and then I could put the wheels and tires on, and it was something that could roll around. That was a big day. Hey, if it rolls, let's get it out in the sunshine where we can take a look at it. Another big day was getting things strapped on a trailer, taking it to the DMV, and getting the VIN. My car was a car now that it had a VIN. Then haul it back to the garage and get it ready to put the body on it. Hey, having the shell sitting on there and the thing rolled out into the sunshine was another pretty big landmark. No doors, no roll bar, no windshield, but it's starting to look like a Cobra. Hey, honestly, once I got it to the point where it looked more like a car, or actually a Cobra, with the hood scoop on and the windshield and the roll bar and so on, honestly, some days I would just walk out there and look at it. Okay, so my car runs, and it does burnouts, which is pretty cool. May not be as cool as that guy, but I figured it was time I could start driving it around and get some miles on it. So I got it out there. I was able to shake it down and make sure that it shifts and stops and brakes straight and accelerates straight, and the cooling fan works, all of those things. And I was pretty happy to say it was pretty bug-free.
Bet you didn't think I could build a Cobra in 5 minutes. Well, there you have it. Well, I really didn't build it in 5 minutes because we're still waiting for the paint job. Anyway, if you want to see the build in detail, I've got a playlist, The Building of a Cobra. That goes through the good, the bad, and the ugly and tells you the whole thing. So it's only been about 8 weeks that my Cobra's been at the original garage getting the paint and the bodywork done, but I'm telling you, it feels like forever already. The other day, I was actually sitting at my laptop looking at pictures and videos just to remember what she looked like. Well, in fact, let's take a look at it. How about that Advanced Engineering West Ford Power Parts bumper sticker? That's from 40-something years ago. My friend Mark sent that to me a few weeks ago. Man, that brought back some memories. Thanks, Mark. All right, so Pete Snakebite Kit, thanks for coming by and visiting my YouTube channel. What this channel is about, if you haven't been here before, it's about Cobras, and other cool Ford stuff, some cool hot rod stuff, but mostly it's about building my Hurricane Motorsports Cobra. I love it. So this thing's at the body shop now. This is a body shop update. Let's take a look at it. The first thing we're going to talk about here is going to be taillights. That's the view most people are going to get on my Cobra. Anyway, there's two kinds of taillights that came on Cobras. Mine are rectangle. Some of them had two round taillights. For the most part, the street Cobras have round ones, and the SCs had rectangle taillights. The SC being the one that would have had a roll bar, side pipes, a hood scoop, and a big block. Nothing's never on a Cobra. I mean, that's kind of a good rule to follow. I'll show you a car that's a mix of the two, but let's take a look first at these taillights. I want to show you a couple of details, what they're doing at the body shop.
So my Cobra, as you can see, has got rectangle taillights. That's what I think is appropriate for what I'm building, which of course is a replica of a 427 SC Cobra. So the body of Hurricane Cobras was actually splashed off of a street roadster, and we'll talk about some differences between those two. But for the most part, the street roadsters had a round tail light. The SCs had a rectangle tail light. I believe some of the early street roadsters had rectangle tail lights. I could be wrong on all of this. These were handmade cars, and anything could have happened on them. So here's a view at the back of, this is an original car, and it's a 427 street roadster. You can see it had undercar exhaust. It did not have side pipes. This one has round tail lights. Like I say, I believe most of them had that. This one's a variation I haven't seen many of, where it doesn't have the Le Mans gas cap that looks like most of them. It's got a smaller one that's not recessed into the top of the fender. Here's a really cool Cobra that I saw outside the museum, the Cobra Experience in Northern California. I believe it's one of the guys that's a partner in the museum. So I think this car started out as a street roadster. So I believe the roll bar was added, the side pipes, the hood scoop, and so on. And a lot of that happened while these cars were fairly new. But if you look at it, the dashboard would represent what would be a street roadster gauge layout. It's a little different than the one on my car, which has the SC gauge layout. And then as you can see here, this has rectangle headlights. I have no idea if this car came as a street roadster with rectangle, or if he swapped those out to make it look more like an SC. But hey, if this was all done in the 60s to an original car, to me it's period correct. So here's what the body shop's doing with mine. Like I said, my car was shaped to fit round taillights, but I want rectangle ones. So they're actually reshaping the back of the fenders there to fit the rectangle taillights. I think that's going to be a really nice touch. So here's some more shots I'll show you. Looking at the car, the body shop is always sending me update pictures. Thank you very much. Anyway, there's a couple spots that were low that they said instead of putting filler, they wanted to use fiberglass, which is stronger for that type of fill. You can see when they're right below the body line on the right fender. Here's a picture of the hood. There's something sticking out of that. Oh yeah, it's the 408. Can't wait to get back in it and push on the loud pedal on that. So these last few pictures, what I want to talk about is the gaps between the door and the body, the hood and the body, the trunk and the body. When I've seen Cobras at car shows and the gaps are inconsistent, or they're too wide or they're too small, honestly, I think it looks bad. So this is one of the things I'm really happy that I had a professional do this. And I've seen some guys that have painted their own Cobras, and this stuff is spot on. If people would have done it themselves, it wouldn't have been. Here's another update on my Cobra that's out at the original garage in Manti, Utah. I want to show you a few details that I haven't been able to show you before. I've got some better pictures and some videos of some very specific things they're doing that I think are just really kind of next level. I thought this was a pretty nice touch. Josh is just sliding this straight edge across there with complete confidence. So I've mentioned a couple times on what a good job they've done at getting the body gap just right. Well, guess what? They want to be able to duplicate that because they're going to take this body off and paint all the pieces and put it back together. Well, I thought this is a pretty neat trick. Once they got all the hinges aligned on the trunk, on the doors, and on the hood, they drilled a hole through the plate on the hinge into the body where they can put an indicator pin through there so they can get these adjustments back to the exact spot. On the last video, I talked a little bit about the tail lights, the rectangle and the round ones. We won't rebeat that one to death, but I wanted to show you some shots of what a good job he did of molding that rear quarter or fender to where it fits those tail lights. The other thing he did was put the license plate on and put the tail lights on and make sure that they all line up straight across the back of the car. Don't you love that license plate? So I guess he figured as long as the tail lights are even and square and so on, he gave the headlights the same treatment, squared up kind of the flange area where that is on the fender, also made those the same height right to left, which they were off just a little bit, and redid the mounting holes there because we want the headlights to be pointing in the right direction, even if the car is going sideways. On any fiberglass car, you've got to clean up kind of fiberglass flashing or the edge of the mold or whatever it is, but you can see there in the nose where he's cleaned that up. They've done the same thing in all of the fender openings, the bottom of the car, and of course they're radiusing all of those so they're not nasty edges. So both the driver's seat and the passenger seat touch the body as it wraps around by your right shoulder if you're in the passenger side, or your left shoulder as the driver. I worked that a little bit before I took the car to them to make some more clearance for the seats, and it was clear that I was going to go through the fiberglass, so I thought, hey, let's leave this to the professionals. So what they're doing is they're going to mold that out a little bit. It's going to have to blend into the back of the door, being radius just a little bit to make all that line up, but without that, I think what we would have had is a hot spot that eventually would have burned through the seats and or the paint there. So there you have it. Hope it gives you a snapshot of where we're at with the paint on the Cobra. Thanks for watching. Hey, I'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks for coming by and checking out Pete Snakebite Kid again. As you can see, we've had a little more rain than usual in Utah. It's turned out kind of green. All right, maybe I'm in Washington State. I want to give you a progress report on how the Cobra's coming at the body shop. So here's a few pictures and I'll let you know what's going on with it. Let's take a look. So you may or may not remember, the front of my car had holes in it for the quick jacks. I wanted to get the quick jacks centered in those holes. Honestly, I thought it was above my pay grade to get those things centered, square, the same height right to left, pointing perpendicular to the frame and, making them look right. So it's one of the things that they asked him to do at the body shop. So what they did is they closed those holes up, as you can see here, and then they re-drilled the holes in the right place and then drilled the mounting holes in the frame. So to set the alignment of the hood to the body is done between the insulation and the hood latches, as far as up and down. What they wanted to make sure is we had no right to left movement ever of the hood, so a centering pin was a suggestion. And I thought, it's just your time and my money, let's go ahead and add that on. I think this is a really nice touch. So you can see this stainless piece sticking up, and that's what it's going to indicate on. And then he put a receiver in the hood where there's a hole and a plate there where it's not just going into the fiberglass where that hole can get all wallered out, right? So again, a really nice touch from the original garage and thinking ahead and making this thing right. So here's kind of the same thought process. So we've got the hood rod, which I had set up and drilled a hole in the hood for it to go in, but let's put a plate there too, so we don't have just that hood rod going into fiberglass. It's going into a metal receiver piece on the hood. Again, a very nice touch that'll make everything more durable long term. In episode 63, I showed you what I did to get the roll bar to fit in the car. Honestly, to get the holes poked in the right place with the different angles of the body and the roll bar, it was a trick, but somehow I figured that out and I thought it looked pretty good. Like a lot of this stuff, the original garage is figuring out a way to just take that to the next level. I really don't like the look of a aluminum or steel holding device that holds down the grommet. It just doesn't look right to me. Some guys like them on their cars that way. This is about personal preference. The original cars had a gasket or a grommet, but fitting it around sheet aluminum is completely different than getting a grommet to fit around fiberglass, which instead of being, a 1/16 of an inch, it's 3/8 or a 1/2 inch. So with chamfering those holes and playing with it, they've got some grommets on there that I think look really good. It will look closer to original car. And as you know, that's what I'm going after. So another home run for the original garage. Hey, there's an update on what's going on with the Cobra at the body shop. Thanks guys for sending me the pictures. Thanks for all the cool stuff you're doing on the car. Can't wait to see that thing all red and shiny. And when I see it, you're gonna see it. Can't wait. Thanks for coming by and checking out Pete's Snakebite Kit again. As you can see, it's another beautiful spring day in Utah. Okay, you got me. This is Flagstaff, Arizona. Anyway, I wanted to give you another update on what's going on at the body shop. So what's going on now is I mentioned that they're going to take the body off the car to do the paint. And so the body is off of the car, as you can see here. What they're going to do is Jason's actually going to bring the car back to my house, which is really great. I don't know if you've ever had a car in the body shop, but there's Dusty and then there's body shop Dusty. So I'm going to have an opportunity to get that thing really detailed out so that when we get it back to the body shop and slip the body back on it, that thing's going to be sparkling top and bottom and ready to go. So that's really about it. The body and the chassis separated, chassis coming to my house, body getting primered soon, then it's going to get the cool red shiny paint. When I get this thing back together, you're going to see it, and I can't wait to see it. Hey, thanks for coming by and checking out Pete's Snakebite Kit again. As you can see, I've been showing in the last few videos, it's really been a wet winter in Utah, and things have really turned out beautiful and green and nice. All right, you got me again. I'm in a park at the top of a hill in Eugene, Oregon, not far from Prees Rock. I'll show you a picture of that in a second. But what we're going to look at today is I finally got my car to a car show. Not the whole car, but let's take a look. So Prees Rock is a tribute to Steve Prefontaine, who was a distance runner at Oregon State in the early 70s. Broke all kinds of records, was an amazing runner. Tragically died of a car accident not far from this park. Hey, speaking of running, I wrote a book a few years ago. Hey, shameless plug, it's my YouTube channel. It's called Running and the Art of Motocross. It discusses a relationship between running, the most natural sport on the planet, and motocross, the toughest sport on the planet. It's on Amazon if you want to check it out. Okay, so the Cobra is back in my garage, and it is covered in stuff. This is not all body shop dust. The car's got 500 miles on it, and you're seeing the underbelly of it, so to speak, now. But what I am going to do is I'm going to get this thing cleaned up. I'm going to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. Actually, I'm going to try and make a car show this coming weekend with just a chassis. I think that would be, I'm pretty sure, the only one there that would look like that. But they did a good job of masking things off while they were doing this, so, I mean, it could be a lot worse. But this thing needs some tender love and care. Let's run the Cobra through the car wash, get it all cleaned up and spotless, get it ready for the car show. Okay, I think I got it all cleaned up, ready for the show. Let's take a look, see what you think. Well, here we are at the car show, not too far from my house. This is in Orem, Utah, at the UVU campus, and thanks to my buddy Mark, had a trailer to drag it down there and back. It was quite a bit of fun, talking to people about it. A lot of interest in it, of course, because not many people have seen a car in this state of repair or build, unless you've done it yourself. But got a lot of interesting comments. Here's one of the Cobras that was there at the show. This car belonged to Paul, and it almost looks like a lot of patina, like an original car, but this car is 40-something years old, was built in the early 80s. A company, Aurora, actually had a contract to build these. They had Ford drivetrain in them and were a turnkey DOT-approved vehicle. He has put a lot of miles on this, made some changes to it and so on from the original build, but he says this is one of the best driving cars he's ever had. He's had a number of Cobras and just is in love with this one. So really cool looking piece. Here's a Factory 5 Cobra you may remember from Pete's Snakebite Kit. Episode 78, we did an article on this one, and it was the 460 sandwich. Got a big block wedged in that thing. Met a couple guys that have got Tigers, actually two brothers. These are some very, very nice cars. A really nice build on these things, a lot of custom touches on them. Actually, I hope to do an interview on one or both of these. Would you guys like to see that? 1971 Boss 351. You've got to look close on the side to see the Boss 351 to realize this isn't just a Mach 1. 1971, this one was an 11.5 to 1 compression motor. We had one of these, this exact same color combination, and I'll tell you what, this car was a blast, and it was a surprise to a lot of people. Did a little bit of street racing with this thing and did very well. Man, this car brought back some memories. So there it is, taking a car to a car show without a body. Maybe I'm crazy, but it was a lot of fun. Hey there, it's Pete at Pete's Snakebite Kit. Thanks for coming by and checking out my YouTube channel again. The last few weeks I've given you some views of some great backgrounds. All I've got this week is, I'm actually in Modesto, California. Hey, and that is the home of one of the most important street races ever. You know that one. It was on Paradise Road. Anyway, more importantly, the Cobra is in primer. Let's take a look at this. So the guys at the original garage were nice enough to send me a few shots of my car in primer in the spray booth. And honestly, when I saw this, I said, I have never seen primer look so good. I'm a little prejudiced, of course, but let's take a closer look at some of the angles. So here's a car from a few angles in primer. Some of the things I'm really impressed with is just the detail work. When you look at this, you see very sharp, crisp lines around the door jambs and so on. That is not the way this Hurricane body came. It wasn't bad, but it's better now. So I'm really happy with it. This has taken a while. It's costing a lot of money, but I think it's money well spent. I think I'm going to be really happy with this thing when it's bright red. I cannot wait to see it. So here we've got the deck lid, nice and smoothed out, ready to go. We've got the doors, and there's the hood. So there you have it. The bodywork's done. The Cobra's in primer. It is close to getting red paint on it, and I'm really excited for that. As soon as I get to see it, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to post it on Pete's Snakebite Kit. Hey, thanks for coming by and checking out Pete's Snakebite Kit again. As you probably know, my Cobra's here. Well, the chassis is. The body's at the body shop, getting close to being painted. And the body is in primer again. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But what we got to do is we got to pick out a color. Obviously, the car is going to be red. But what color red is it going to be? Well, we got some options. Let's take a look at those options. So as far as the primer goes, yeah, it's back in primer again because it's been blocked a couple times and things cleaned up and blocked again. And I'm sure you know, if you know much about paint, boy, the more times it's blocked, the nicer that thing's going to look. Well, here's a walk around on it with the last coat of primer on it. Not sure if it's getting another block and primer, but to me the thing looks pretty sweet and ready to paint. You may remember back in episode 81, it was double hurricanes. Paul Profrox had built 2 Hurricane Cobras. He said the toughest part was picking a color. Well, that's what I've got to do now, is pick a color. I really like the color red. I've had a couple of my cars painted red. The problem is there's red, and then there's red, and then there's more reds. And then I thought I got it narrowed down because I wanted a Ford color, a Rangoon red, and then there's another Rangoon red. Jason at the original garage was nice enough to paint me up a sample. So here's 4 reds. So looking at these 2 reds up close, the one on the left is a Rangoon, the one on the right is a Rangoon with a little more orange in it. Here we've got Ford Race red on the left and kind of a generic red from GM on the right. And the winner is the Rangoon red with a little bit of orange, that one on the bottom right, and actually was an original color on Cobras. I've had a lot of people ask me what color the stripes are going to be, assuming my Cobra will have stripes.
Be ready to attack Rock Ridge at noon tomorrow. Here's your badge.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges. Oh, no.
Hey, it's Pete Snakebite Kit. Thanks for stopping by and checking out my YouTube channel again. What we're talking about is Cobras. You've probably figured that out. But the one we're specifically talking about is mine, and you can see it's missing something, the body. It's at the body shop being painted. We're close to being done. In fact, if you watch to the end of this video, you'll see a couple parts that are painted and get to see the color. It looks pretty nice. Okay, the detail we're going to look at today is the harnesses. I've got both the 5-point harnesses all set up and ready to go. Let's look at some details on that. So as I mentioned a couple times, the Hurricane kit was very complete. I probably bought less than 10 or 15 fasteners, and mostly because, you know, I wanted a different length one, or I did something different. I mean, it was very thorough with what it had, and a couple of nice touches is it had 5-point harnesses for the driver's side and the passenger side. So something funny about mixing race car with street car stuff is you end up with issues a lot of times. And here's one of them. So seatbelts on race cars are meant to be recertified or replaced every 2 or 3 years. And you guys know I bought the car a couple years ago and took a while to get it. And if you're good with the calendar, I think you can see that these seatbelts are out of date. Obviously, your seatbelts in your street car are much older than 2 years, or they will be without ever being a problem. But that's just one of the things. I will probably get these recertified and have these shoulder straps a little bit longer. They're kind of short for the way we have it set up. But anyway, here's a 5-point. I messed around with a lot of ways to mount this. I was going to buy a bar that goes across here and mount this strap right across there. Nick Acton back east sells a very nice one. It's pretty pricey. Wasn't really sure I wanted it on the roll bar to scratch that up and so on. I tried to kind of make the pieces to fab it up myself, and I was in over my head and aborted that issue. So I mounted them both here on this 2-inch square you can see, and that's where Hurricane says to mount them. And it'll be a little tough access wise when the body is on here. You will be able to get up and do that, and of course I'm not thinking of taking those in and out a whole lot, but that's where they are. So that's what they look like. The lap belts are mounted under the seat rails, and then the submarine belt is mounted to the floor. The other thing about these, if you're in a hurry, like say if you robbed a bank or something, don't waste time getting in your 5-point harness. It takes a bit. You can't be in a hurry, and it's probably best if somebody else is strapping you in. Again, that's a race car situation where you would have somebody helping you get in and out of a race car if needed. So here we are, strapped in with the 5-point shoulder, lap, and the submarine belt. You can reach the steering wheel just fine, the shifter, but you know, you're limited where you can go. That's on purpose, obviously. I think, well, these shoulder straps are a little short. When I get these recertified, I'm gonna make them a little bit longer. Of course, we'd like the lap belt down just a little bit further, but here we are, ready for full tilt boogie. Hi, hey, thanks for coming by and checking out Pete Snakebite Kid again. In the last video, I let you know that the next video will most likely see pictures of my Cobra painted. Well, let's take a look and see what we've got. So I've mentioned to you a couple times that the body shop, which is the original garage in Manti, Utah, they sent me progress pictures along the way, and I've been down there a couple times to take some pictures and some video. This last set of pictures they sent me is awesome because it shows the last time the car was blocked. It shows the thing in primer, I think it's sealer. It shows it with paint, and then it shows with paint in clear. This is not cut and buffed yet, but it looks pretty shiny. So let's take a look at these pictures.
Here you go. Here's the last block sand that they did, and each one of those dark spots is where they found another little spot that's not quite perfect, but this thing gets closer to glass every time. So here's primer again, a little darker primer than some previous pictures because this is a sealer primer, so the paint has a perfect surface to lay onto when they spray it. Here's the color sprayed on. This is the Rangoon Red I wanted. It kind of looks satin finish. Well, that's of course because they haven't sprayed the magic of the clear coat on it, which we'll see in just a second. Here's a couple angles of it with the clear coat on it. I think it looks pretty nice. You can really see how the body just flows and the reflection of the lights and so on. They're still going to polish it from there, and I think it's going to look even better. What's really going to look good is when it's on the chassis and I'm sitting inside it. Can't wait to see it.
So there you have it. There's some color on the car. I'm going to haul it down there bright and early tomorrow morning, get the chassis and the car in the same place, and this thing's going to go back together. Then I'm going to drive it home. Anyway, I'll give you some more progress pictures along the way. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Hi, it's Pete at Pete Snakebite Kid. Thanks for coming by and checking out my YouTube channel again. Hey, we're not in Pete Snakebite Kid studio because there's no Cobra in there. But the nice thing is that thing's an echo chamber. And so we're in the backyard where the acoustics are actually a little bit better. There may be a little bit of wind noise. So in the last video, I told you I was going to get up bright and early the next morning, going to get the Cobra back down to the body shop, reunite the chassis and the body, and that's exactly what I did. So let's take a look.
We got the chassis safely back to the body shop, and it's about to be reunited with the painted body.
What's going on here? What are you doing?
There's a body, beautifully painted. This is Rangoon Red, and it's actually one of 6 different Rangoon Reds that we picked. But hey, as we walk around the body here, take a look at this. When you see the reflections of light and other things on here, notice how it flows across there like it's going across some smooth water. I looked at the body and all the body parts for quite a while, and the closer I looked, the more I liked it.
Hey, something I've had a lot of questions on, and I'm sure you're going to get more questions on. How much is this paint job going to cost? We are going to talk about that. That will be on a future video. Because saying I took my car to the body shop to get painted is like saying the Titanic needs some work. So there are so many things that were done, little details that really I wouldn't have thought of that that could be better. I really wasn't shooting for something that's super top show quality, but hey, to their credit, that's how they do stuff at the original garage. So what I am going to do in a future video, I'm going to give you a tour of the car and all the little things they did to make this paint job special. There I go, paint job again. It's just what we call things, but there's a bunch of it. It's not a short list, and it all costs money. So yes, I'm going to give you a tour, let you know really all the things that were done, and yes, I'll give you an idea of what it would cost to do something like this. Brother, it ain't cheap, let me tell you.
Here's some shots of the hood. The hood scoop is just actually sitting on there. I just wanted you guys to get an idea of what the hood looks like. And again, you can see those reflections look like they're just sliding across a piece of smooth glass.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Los Angeles, California, the Doors!
So here's a shot of the doors from the inside and the outside, just so you can get an idea of what those look like. I think they look pretty good.
So there you have it. The body's all painted and looking good. There's some cut and buff, they call it now. I used to call it color sanding, but I guess that's not what they call it anymore. Anyway, there's some finished work to do on it. Of course, the body needs to go on. All of the little pieces here and there have got to go on. Then I'm going to bring it home. We're shooting for next week, so that's the plan. And when I see it, you're going to see it. And I bet I'm going to like it. I hope you like it too. Hey, thanks for coming by and checking out Pete's Snakebite Kit. Today's the day. My Cobra's not done, but it's pretty close. The paint's done, the body's on, it's been cut and buffed. They've got the car mostly back together. I'm on my way down there to get it. So I want you to come with me. We're going to take a look at this thing and see what it looks like. If you've been watching this, you know it's a long time coming. If you know me very well, you might have been listening to these stories for 30 years. Anyway, pretty excited. Redecorated the room for the baby, so when it comes home from the hospital, you know, it's ready to go. You know how that goes. And I can't find my selfie stick. I never thought I'd need a backup selfie stick, but sorry for the close-up. All right, let's go. So here we are. I got the U-Haul trailer hooked up to the mighty Explorer. Hey, I wouldn't tow this thing to California from here with this truck, but it does a pretty good job. Nice thing about Utah, there's two things here. There's big mountains and there's flat ground. So from the body shop and back, it's pretty flat. So we are hooked up and ready to go. Let's go get that Cobra.
It's pretty hard to put into words what it was like to see this for the first time. I pulled the trailer in next door at the hamburger stand and walking up to this thing, you know, honestly, just a flood of emotions and feelings and, you know, really dreaming about this thing for, I counted out the years. It's more than 35 years since I've really decided this is what I'm going to build. And seeing this thing sitting out there in front of the original garage, it was surreal. I felt like I was looking at somebody else's car, but I tell you what, the closer I got and the more I looked, the more I liked. This thing looks great. Here I've got you 3 different angle shots of the car. You can get a good look at it, see what I saw. Of course, pictures don't do it justice, but I think it even looks pretty good in pictures. I spent quite a while just admiring this, talking to Jason and talking to Josh. It made this thing happen. I am just over the moon pleased with this. I am going to do another video where I'm going to go over all the details. I want you guys to see all the small, medium, and large things they did to take this from good to perfect.
So there it is, loaded up on the trailer.
So I think we all know we shouldn't drive distracted, but with this view in my rear view mirror, I think it was worse than texting. I couldn't take my eyes off of this thing. I pulled over a couple times just to make sure the tie downs were tight and everything was in place and the car wasn't falling off. But really, I pulled over just to look at it a couple times. Finally made it home safe and sound. Here we are pulling up in front of Pete's Snakebite Kit Studios. To have this thing safely home and inside my garage, and we're going to call this thing 95% finished, it is such a great feeling. And let's take a quick walk around on this one more time before I let you go. Got it home, dusted it off, did a little bit of polish on it. You guys, thanks for this paint job. The original garage knocked it out of the park.
Hey, thanks for coming along with me on this journey. Not just picking the car up today, but on this building this crazy car that has taken so much time, cost so much money, broke my heart, and I've enjoyed every single minute of it. It really is a lifetime achievement for me, and we've still got some work to do. Carpet needs to go in the cockpit, carpet needs to go in the trunk. There's some aluminum work around the nose cone where the air directs into the radiator and mount the engine oil cooler in there. But that's it. So, hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Pete's Snake Bite.